that they have their own lifestyle. So what comes to, I think when you consider these things, is that what comes at the end is, I think, we have to accept a neutral law which will define all citizens. I mean, theft is a crime, for example. It's wrong and it's punishable. That's everything. Everybody can agree on that. In a Muslim, Jewish, atheist, agnostic will agree that theft is bad. So I think the existence of a neutral legal system is acceptable from a Muslim point of view. But then Muslims will have their own community. And in their community, they can organize their lives. I mean, you can organize your inheritance according to rules of the Quran. I mean, there has to be some space that you can live according to Islam. But if you want to make your rules the rule of the state, which is ruling a lot of communities like you, then you start by imposing your belief, which is not, I think, the Islamic way to do. That's why, from my point of view, I think a secular state, not a secularist one, but a secular state which respects freedom of religion, which respects communities to organize themselves, the right of the communities to organize themselves, right of individuals to practice their faith, is Islamically acceptable. And I think, well, these are changeable, but that's the best thing that we can find in the modern world. And other than that, we should also see that trying to impose what we regard as Sharia to others always creates problems, wars and conflict. It creates resentment to Islam among some people. And also, we should also see that what we call Sharia is not actually, much of is not actually divine in nature. It's the idea of Islamic jurists. I mean, the Quran is, of course, a divine source. But after the Quran, even the hadith, I mean, ulama decided which hadith was correct, which hadith was not. So there's a human element there. Now, other people say, well, we have to reconsider the hadiths. There's so many of them. Some people say, well, you need a re-evaluation of the hadith tradition. On other legal issues, it was the ulama of the 9th and 10th century which made those decisions about, what is permissible and what is not. And times have changed a lot. If they were living, if Imam al-Azam, or Imam Shafi was living today, perhaps he would have a very different opinion on what is this or that. So when we say we are believing in Sharia because it is divine, actually we are neglecting the human source, which created much of the Sharia. I think we should respect that tradition, but we should also understand that it is changeable. It should be adaptable to today's world. And this means that I think there's need for more ijtihad to understanding modern realities and implementing Islamic rules and ideas according to that Islamic tradition. So I think I'm mostly done. And I think from a theoretical perspective, accepting a neutral, pluralistic legal and political system, which we can call well as liberal democracy, is, I think, Islamically acceptable. And that's the point where most of Turkey's Muslims have come today. And today in Turkey, the political debate and confrontation is between people who demand a liberal democracy, including Muslims, and people who want an illiberal secular autocracy, the one established by the Kemalist regime in the 1930s and so on. There are people who want to keep that, and there are people who want for freedom. So in Turkey, if you're speaking about freedom all the time, you'll think that this is Islamic, he's speaking about freedom. And if you're speaking about the state and, the state should guide people, you would be obviously a secularist. So there's this interesting angle there. And I think, for example, as I know, in Malaysia, people who speak about freedom sometimes speak about suppressing religious freedom, which is, I think, a wrong way to put that. So these terms have different meanings, and they define, their definitions will change according to our perceptions, but that's the perception in Turkey, and I think it's not an unhealthy one. Thank you.
Let's open the question and answer, but this time I've been told that there will be a roving mic, so let's wait for the microphone to get you, and please introduce yourself before you ask.
Mr. Tuan Ismail from Newcastle, fourth year medicine. I've got a question about the freedom that the Turkish community is experiencing today. As we know from my own reading, since AKP came into power in 2002, more and more Muslims are wearing hijabs. And then I've read in so many places, in BBC's, CNN, especially from the CHP's diehard supporters, saying that the increasing numbers of the Muslims wearing headscarf are creating a new environment where, you know, before this, when you don't wear hijab, when you don't cover your body, it's nothing wrong with that. But then, since more and more Muslims are wearing hijabs, they are being frowned upon. And they said this is dangerous, this is against the Kemalist principle of secularism and so on and so on. So can you explain on that? I've got another question from the previous session, the first one, which is, you've said about there are lots of scholars saying that, in the Ottoman Empire especially, supporting secular. As we know, scholars can be, you know, motivated by different motives. And usually those who are under the rule of establishment, they just follow what the establishment want. If they are pro-secular policy, they will come out with a fatwa saying that, okay, secular is right and nothing wrong with what the government is doing. And then I've heard some people quoting Sheikh Mustafa Sabri, which is the last Sheikhul Islam of Ottoman Empire, saying that secular is actually the shortcut to apostasy. So could you please comment whether he's actually mentioning or is actually referring to the secular state or the secularist one, as in...
I didn't get what Mustafa Sabri said. He said
that secularism is the shortcut to apostasy.
Shortcut to apostasy.
Shortcut to apostasy. And so I just want to, if you can clarify to us whether what he meant was the secular, as in the secular state, or the secularist state one, which is the one which is imposed by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, where you can't practice religion and so on and so forth. I've got the question actually. I think let you finish, let you answer those questions first.